Curse of Strahd, episode 19. The first episode without Louisa the Barbarian. She is gone. If you've stayed up with this whole thing, one of the 5 players, Louisa the Barbarian, for real life reasons, had to move to Michigan. And now it's just 4. And it was the first session without that, so that was it was an interesting vibe check to kind of make sure to check in back with everyone, see how everything's going. And it was all, I made sure to keep going around the table, checking with everybody, so that at least at the start of the session we had some intermingling of stuff. And where we left off last time was like at the end of this big battle against Strahd, so there was a little bit of that, figuring out what's going on, plans for like what are we gonna do, So it was a nice little reset point to go forward from there. And we had a whole bunch of laughs of different stuff. So it was a great start. I was very cognizant of really wanting to make sure it was a great start socially, just to get the vibe back at the table. It sucks to have to lose a player, and you don't want to have that like linger, that type thing. So that went great. And then here's how I normally do these things. I give y'all the rundown of what I thought was going to happen and then what actually happened, and here it goes. So first thing I'm going to show is my Dungeon Master binder. Bada bing. This is kind of how I ran it. This is at the very start. I did a little recap. This was an important recap because they were going to maybe have to do an escape scene to get out and have to run and then and leave, depending on some things. So I wanted to make sure that they knew kind of the landscape of how they entered, so that just in case an escape thing happened, they could bolt and get out of there, right? And so then I did have a retcon, something I said last session. I said Strahd. I'm trying to keep in mind, from a Dungeon Master perspective, I'm trying to keep in mind of timelines and keeping like keeping them moving, letting them chill sometimes and choose where they want to go, but then like putting ticking time clocks on the line, and I want to kind of hit that. And I think I pushed it too far whenever I said Strahd, like y'all can stay for a day, but then you have to leave, and I was like, Strahd wouldn't do that. Like he wants the adventurers to come to his castle at any time. I don't want them to be shooed away from the castle. So my retcon was that Strahd did not instruct them to leave. The castle's always open to my adventurers. Always open and stuff, and then invited them to stay longer if they wanted to, and then he left, right? So just a little clarification point there, and then we go into the actual session. So I was like, I asked them like, what's y'all's plan in general? Are you gonna still stay in here and explore, or are you gonna leave the castle? I just want to know from a Dungeon Master perspective, what's y'all's plan? Is y'all's plan to leave the castle, or is y'all's plan to explore the castle? Now I am asking them that for a reason. The castle functions differently if you try and leave it. Like if you're trying to leave the castle, things shut. It doesn't want you to leave, right? So I needed to know that for those logistical purposes, but I disguised it as like, hey guys, like what's y'all's plan? Like what are y'all thinking? And they're like, yeah, we're gonna leave. And so now I'm like, okay, traps have been activated. And then I did a little skill challenge right here for gold, because in general, there's like so much gold floating around the prison. There's like hundreds upon hundreds of gold, thousands of gold really, on the floor of this prison here. There's all this gold in there. It's in the module. It's in the thing. So I'm like, all right, wow, they have stumbled into a treasure trove, right? So with all this gold, I'm like, man, how much gold can they carry? So here's what I went with. I made it a skill challenge. How much gold can you guys carry? I gave them all 100 gold. You can easily kind of go through and gather up 100 gold, because there's no time. They weren't trying to run away from something or hide or anything like that. So they had plenty of time. So they're kind of like looting the gold and whatever things possible. So they all got 100 gold, just like a freebie, and that's like a reward. There's your good job gold right there. And then that had to be a skill challenge, and the DC was 15. And each success you got 1 gold bundle, or like 1 point, and each gold bundle, aka each point, was worth 100 gold, right? So, and this representative of them kind of holding onto the gold, right? So it was a fun little challenge where they had to describe how are they doing gold, and it was so brilliant. The paladin did an athletics check and also described that they took the body of Jonathan, the were-raven bird guy that was defended Louisa till the end. She's like, I want to carry Jonathan's body because they want to take Jonathan back to Vallaki to kind of do a burial for him. I want to take his body, but I want to stuff his body with gold. Like I want to put into his pockets and into his, whatever. I was like, oh my gosh. So very gloomy but very creative way. I'm already carrying this body, might as well stuff it with gold, right? So that was I just gave an extra 100 gold there because that was just very creative, and I love that. Athletics check for that, and then Finian did a spell check to cast enhance ability and strengthen Pug to be able to carry more stuff, and then Felix the Rogue did a sleight of hand check. Very creative sleight of hand check. And I was like, how is he going to do a sleight of hand check here? He's like, I want to hide the gold on Pug without Pug knowing it. Sleight of hand check. Props. Very creative use of a skill check towards a goal of what you're saying. And that's why I love skill challenges so much. And then Lars was like, I just really want to carry like the gold that he had. And during the combat and before the combat, it was like a whole bit. It was a funny thing that he was gathering up a whole bunch of gold. So he had already gathered up a whole bunch of gold. So I gave him advantage on the investigation check to kind of get everything kind of gathered up together. Cool. So then they all got a whole bunch of gold, and I gave them out little tokens, little yellow tokens. I gave them all. Where's the tokens? And they're lost. Oh well. I get these little yellow beads that represent a gold piece, or represent a bundle of 100 gold. So now they have all these tokens. I was like, don't write that gold down yet, because y'all still got to get out of here. And they're like, oh wait, what? And then now, in order to leave the prison, Rahadin was going to stop and talk to them, and he might have attacked them depending on how that whole thing went. But they just kept walking. The escape chase scene, there was eight gargoyles that was going to attack them if they had ill intentions towards Strahd, but they said things and they explained what their intentions towards Strahd was. Just, I'm just going to leave. I'm not trying to. I just want to get out of here, which made sense. The gargoyles didn't attack, but the stone dragons. There are 4 stone dragons that anyone that tries to leave, they stop. So we did a little skill challenge, right? I did a impromptu skill challenge, DC 15. You needed a certain amount of successes before 3 failures, and each failure that you got during the skill challenge, you lost 1 bundle of gold. So it's just like, it was a fun little thing of like escaping the castle, and I wanted to leave the castle. I didn't want them to just walk out unscathed, but I didn't want to threaten their health or anything like that, because Strahd wouldn't kill them. So how can I make it tension? I tied the tension to gold. So they had this gold, they had these bundles of gold, and they were trying to escape the castle with losing as little gold as possible. So they did super well on that. It was very well done as far as how the cinematic skill challenge went there. Only 1 failure. They got like 7 or 8 successes. Did very well. And then only lost 1 bundle of gold. And then they get out, and there's a window there. Emil, the werewolf, is with the party, and he's going with them. But Emil, I have this little note here. Where is Emil? Leaving the prison. Emil established who's carrying the gold. Where's Emil? Random scenes, travel, return. Oh, Emil's. There we go. Random scenes. Emil's trying to run away and escape. These are my little reminder scenes. So as soon as during the skill challenge, Emil got out the door first, I was like, wait a second. Emil would book it and just run. So I had Emil book it and take off. And at the end of the skill challenge, the 2 people that got out first were Felix and Lars, Felix the Rogue and Lars the Bard. And they turned to look, and Emil's like running away. And then they booked it and chased after him. Felix ran him down, caught up to him. Lars was going to cast a spell, but Felix was like, no, stop. And then which gave Emil some trust, and he was able to talk Emil down and bring him back to the group. Be like, hey, no, you're good, man. You're good. So they were able to keep Emil without Emil getting away from them, because Emil was just going to run away from the group and not be a part of them anymore. So Emil's still a part of their party. They were able to keep him good in there. This was a huge thing. Pug with the sword. How I could go on about this. Pug finished his attunement to the sword. I did this thing where I go into. I have him have this like vision of this dark room, and this dark figure comes rushing at him, and it's like a little test trial situation. You've seen Matt Mercer do this a lot, but I do love doing this, especially for like attunements and these little trials of things. The first time that Pug touched the sword and got blacked out, this black figure, this a shadowy figure appeared and like rushed at Pug, and it was like, oh, what? And they make an attack roll, but they didn't really know what was going on, so they had made it a disadvantage, and it was, okay, nope, didn't happen. But this time, I was like, all right, I want you to be very careful with how this happens. Tell me what you're doing. And then I said, like, all right, so the black figures, what are you doing? And he's like, as soon as I want to raise my sword up and put the light up. And I was like, okay, make an attack roll with advantage. So now instead of a disadvantage, because nothing was said to help this vision that they were having of this darkness attacking them. They knew what was coming this time. They said it beforehand. I'm going to take my sword out and light it up and try and have as much light shining in here as possible because you're trying to fight the darkness, right? So it's like make an attack roll at advantage. They got a natural 20. And then I used that natural 20 within the skill challenge, and they got 2 successes instead of 1. It was this big moment where they attuned to the sword, kind of like in the D&D movie. You know how they attune to the helmet and there's this big thing happens? Same thing here. Pug attunes to the sword, and then it becomes super, super, super powerful. Honestly, it was a very powerful sword. When I made this sword, I put it in the prison, right? And there was already a glowing, in the module, there was already a glowing sword, but I took it and ran with it, and I wanted it to be a really cool glowing sword, a really cool sword. And it was sentient, so I really wanted to run with that. And I had it level up process, like it awakens or whatever, kind of like the vestiges of Divergence from Critical Role. But this stuff, I've made a bunch of this type of stuff on Patreon and different magic items that I've done, and me and the team have created on these magic items that level up, and they're dynamic weapons. They can awaken and ascend to higher levels. One of the things for this weapon was to deal damage to Strahd. And I thought whenever I got this weapon, I thought they'd go into the prison at some point, and if they ever found it, they had the weapon now, they'd use it for a while, maybe leave the castle, use it for a while, and then during a fight with Strahd, maybe during the final fight with Strahd, they'd use it and it would awaken, and it'd be this crazy epic moment in the final big battle. But no, they have this weapon, and Pug uses it, attacks Strahd with it, deals damage to Strahd, which is one of its activation criteria, and then it levels up, which I thought was really cool. So I love giving little mini quests to items to be able to ascend them in power. So that was really cool, and Pug was able to figure out what that happened there because they were able to attune to it through this vision thing that happened. And then now they're finally starting to get out of here. They succeed on the challenge against the 4 stone dragons, and then they chase down Immel. They get him back, and now we go to travel. And here's one thing: I had the Kirill encounter. I was going to have Kirill, the evil werewolf leader. I was going to have him come onto the group, but they did so good at escaping with Immel. I changed my mind. I didn't think it was a fair thing to do. Kirill was going to come and check on them. Kirill was going to come and be like, "Hey, you get him?" But I was like, I don't know if that's fixed. They got Immel out, but then if Kirill comes and attacks them, I don't want to have him attack them because they just had a fight with Strahd, and it just didn't feel like a good fit to have some sort of werewolf fight encounter with Kirill. I didn't think that would be as good of a story as them getting Immel out and the werewolf revolution uprising be a thing. I think that's a much, much better storyline than Kirill sweeping in and being like, "Hey, you caught him? Oh, there he is!" Rah! It was too much. So I was gonna have it be. I had it be a roll. I made the group make it. I had the group make a fate roll. High is good for them. Low is bad. They rolled high, which means Kirill did not kind of spy on them and see them from the shadows. If they rolled low enough, 1 to 5 or whatever, on the fate roll, which is just a flat D20 roll, to kind of see these little moments of indecision, in moments of let's let the dice decide, right? If they had a roll of 1 through 5, then Kirill from the shadows would have been watching, and they would have seen that Immel is there. That did not happen. They rolled high enough on it, so nope, that's not going to happen. Kirill has no idea that Immel is out there, so there we go. I also did a fate roll for Vallaki. The fate roll for Vallaki is right here. If they rolled a 1 through 5, and I rolled this in front of the group. I said, all right, this is the fate roll for Vallaki. 1 through 5, 6 through 9, 10 through 15, 16 through 20. Here we go. I rolled the dice, got a 12, so nothing bad's going to happen. Now, they don't know what this table says. They can't see the table. They just know that this roll represents how well Vallaki is doing without them there. Simple as that, right? So they get rolled a 12. Things are fine, no worries. But they could have came back to where there was an assault on the church, or there's missing guards, or, right? Plenty of things going on. Even more missing guards than there already are. So there's that. And then they get to Vallaki, and there's the festival. And now here's where this was a very funny, long journey for the group to join the festival. And the funniest part was the festival was supposed to be a big celebration, but then in a very, so some of these things, I want to do these big play-by-plays, but I'm like, man, I would just be doing, if I did a full play-by-play, these videos would be too long. So basically what happened is Felix the Rogue, if y'all have been keeping up with this, is off the grid. Felix the Rogue, the only record of Felix existing is when he entered the city. You have to sign in. Felix signed in as Felix or whatever, and then they're in the city, and he's been a ghost in the city the whole time. The burgomaster doesn't know he exists. No one knows he exists. He's been in the shadows. He's been wheeling and dealing secretly. He's a ghost, right? And then they leave the city, and then he's like, wait a second, what if? So then he leaves the city. And then whenever they come back in, the group has this idea where they're like, you know what? What if, because Felix had snuck back into the city. He found out through his little rings of thieves guild type people, secret ways to enter into the city. So he was able to enter into the city. He used one of his inspiration dice. That's a whole other story. But then he gets into the city, and now the group shows up, but they have a dead body. And I'm like, who's this dead body? And they're like, wait a second. This dead body is Felix. And so now the group with it was 5 of them. Louisa ran away. And then Felix is no longer a part of the group because Jarnathan, the dead body of Jarnathan that they're carrying back, Jarnathan's body, they said was Felix. They lied to the guards. They said, this is Felix. Yeah, he died. He died. Felix died. And so now, with some successful checks and persuasion, deception, etc., Felix no longer exists, and Felix is presumed to be dead. And then they took it one step further. Lars wanted the festival, this big festival that everything's leading towards. Lars was like, you know what? Let's have this be a funeral for my brother. And so the whole thing was a funeral to his brother, and everyone bought it, and that Felix, one of the Fate Weavers, the group's name is the Fate Weavers. I had to name them that because they wouldn't name themselves, and I wanted them to have some sort of adventuring group name, right? So one of the Fate Weavers has fallen, and then now it was just 4, but then they lost another one, so now it's just 3. That looks kind of bad, so I'm going to pick up on that at the top of next session. But there's only 3 Fate Weavers now. But the best part and the funniest part was that Lars, in the process of setting up a funeral, didn't really organize and work with the event director from the city as well. So there's this big festival of a celebration happening, but then Lars is planning a funeral while the event planner is planning a festival, like a party, right? So then Lars is approaching. He gets a coffin. He gets all these things set up to approach. He has a black hood and a cowl. And he's setting up for. It was this super funny juxtaposition of the party that was being set up and the funeral that he was planning for, and the party's happening as Lars comes up with a coffin and just kills the party. But then they're trying to save the party, and it was that probably gets into a you'd have to be there kind of story. But it was hilarious to have a party that is trying to be a funeral, but then the burgomaster wants everyone to be happy. So he's like, Lars, what are you doing? This is not a funeral. And then, yeah. So, and then I also had fireworks go off during his funeral speech, but they'd already been, the fuse has already happened for them to go off. So during Lars's funeral speech for his dead brother, these fireworks are going off. So I had him give the speech as all of us around the table were like, so absolutely hilarious, super fun session. One of the funniest sessions we've had as far as laughs and things like that, which I also think was good and purposefully tactful on my point as well, because we did just lose a player. So I did want this session to be a bit more fun. And there was a couple of times like the Carol encounter and some other things that I let roll back so that we could kind of dive into some of the jokes and some of the more fun humor side of things, which was super fun to see and do. So if you want to check out these videos and see these live gameplay, all of the live gameplay footage is on my Patreon. Every single patron gets access to all those videos. There's the full library there. There's also a free trial. You can join a free trial and you can see and watch them for yourselves. And yeah, that's it's been a fun reset to kind of see where everything goes from here now with the 4 of them, which technically is 3 of them because Felix doesn't exist, which is such a rogue thing. It's been fun to see how they all go from here. And then now from here, I don't know where they're going to go. What are they going to do from here? I don't know. I am excited to see where they go. They have a few directions they could take it, but we'll see what happens next time. Stay creative. Think outside the box.